Hey guys, it's Ryan, and this week, before I get into a wealth of far more useful videos, I wanted to do something fun and light to allow me to better script the next few videos in preparation for the holiday season. Today I will be going through every Dire Foes profile and doing a good old-fashioned tier list based on their model and their profile and how good I think they are. Dire Foes is a real mixed bag, but if you're interested in this, remember to like and subscribe for more, and next time I'll actually have something a bit more useful. So let's begin with Anya. Anya has two very solid models ranging from both sexy alien of old Corvus Belly and then the new crush your head between her thighs as she commits war crimes of the new Corvus Belly design team, and both of them are just absolutely solid models for their times and for today. I would use either of them if I played Morats. Now, profile wise, she is a solid one with Morat Purity for fire teams, as well as a wild card and both EM grenades, smoke, and a K1 combi rifle, all this on base 12s, which is very solid kit to go along with the fact that she's a specialist and she's Morat, which means she's also veteran. With the climbing plus, that means she can basically do what she wants and do it fairly well. Other Morat profiles may do it better. I don't know the army well enough, like maybe Rindax might do it better, but I think she looks solid for our first Dire Foes character. As such, solid A tier. The model is amazing and the reliable profile just puts her up there. Pandra only has the one model and it's nice for a very old one, so I can't complain too much, but I'm not a fan, so it's not doing any positives here. Profile isn't massively exciting either, as a wild card with the Fusilier tag in NCA, and a Fusilier pure in Verd, which is fine, but paramedics exist, and with orcs they're good enough to seriously prefer them. Her points cost is not great at 22 points, which is 8 whole points more than a trauma doc, and I just don't think it's worth it for the 1 whip, 4 CC, 1 arm, 3 BTS and courage. I just don't believe it makes a difference in her doctoring duty. She shoots just as well as a Fusilier and a doc who do her job far more efficiently. It's an old model and profile. It's our D tier. Lupe, like Pandra, only has the one model and it's slightly on the older side, but it looks pretty good. It's got real Game of Thrones vibes from her and her weird katana-esque sword. It's an odd pair, but I think it's an iconic nomad model. Her profile, while not often seen, is really solid for a light infantry with similar loadouts to Anya, but instead of the EM grenades, she still gets smoke, min-3, dogged and a Panzerfaust, which is a solid pain in the ass secondary ARO piece that I really dig, and I can see why people want the model back. This is solid A tier. The profile is really making up for the lack of a new model. Thermasius, I think the old Thermasius is a bit of a classic model, and I do kind of like him. He's just got a new one, and I'm not massively impressed with the pose or the paint job, so I'm a little more reserved about the new one. Profile-wise, he's like a side-graded Constantinus. His fireteam version actually offers something different than the infiltration version, but a Thorkai does it 12 points cheaper and largely worse. But both are BS12, and Thermasius is a wildcard, so he's more likely to show up and be useful, although he won't. Steel Phalanx is pretty bad for crowding out good options with great options, but with the min-6 and a Thorakai team, he does shoot pretty well with that light rocket launcher. The infiltration option is nice, but lacks the cool light rocket launcher, which I think I would pay the 3 points for in the midfield. He suffers the fate of most as he is a min-6 but no camo, so he is very vulnerable to a stray chain rifle taking him down. Arm 3 helps, but I don't think it is enough. I do think you can run him in an off-meta sort of way. Only considering the profile, this is a B tier, but considering which sectorial he's in, could be a C tier, as simply he's just overshone. Okay, Oda's model does not match the profile. She kind of looks like a skirmisher or even a light heavy infantry, not some CC-15 light infantry. However, I'm willing to look past this incongruity for the great model as it's one of many JSA bangers. Profile-wise, I think it's very busy. Engineer, dodge +3, mine layer, min-3, and a couple of options. I don't think I like the forward deployment one, but emitters are nice and always worth considering. Although I would go for that fireteam option emitter with 2 Karakuris or any 2 heavy infantry of any sorts, as being a nice way to fix the isolation. They're absolutely going to suffer from as a heavy infantry in a hacker's world. I think B tier, but we don't see her often. Isabel's model is old as the other ones I've mentioned, but like, I don't care. I think she looks great with her pose and her little like 1990s compact PC. It's a 10 out of 10 model, purely out of my love for Caledonia. A hacker in Ariadne is not good, but like, I make the argument that in context of Caledonia, it's kind of okay. Like, she can get brain blasted and isolated, but I think of her as a super volunteer with zone of control AROs that are spicy, EM mines and a T2 rifle, and a wildcarding specialist in a sectorial that desperately needs one is all fantastic plus points. As such, she's in my go-to Harris. She can also pure core with volunteers for like a 60 point BS-15 T2 rifle, or join a couple of Greys, Mormere Rovers, or Scots Guard. In comparison to others in this list, she probably ought to be B tier, but this is my list, so A tier. Beware the technical might of Caledonia. I knew I had to do Constantino, and man, it's a mixed one. First, both models are really nice. The old one works as an order sergeant, knight commander, or some warband in another faction. The new one is also pretty great and could be most medium infantry or light infantry in military orders, so I'm really happy with it. Profile is a yikes, to be honest. Like, it's constantly being asked to be reworked because it's very middling. Like, at least with Hermasis, he has some options and some cool kit, and Coney has good stuff. It's just split 4 ways and it needs a direction. He has CC18 and MES-CC options. He has BS12, MSV2, Min-3, but a combi rifle and assault pistols. He has specialist operative, Min-3 and infiltration on one profile, but no camouflage or marker state, which could be an amazing midfield specialist that just straight up hunts down Ariadne, but nope, doesn't have any of that. Like, 3 different suggested fixes that could make him a lot better if they just pick a direction and run with him. Constantinos misses the mark, but he's still a panel shooter with BS12, so we'll stick him at B tier next to Thermasius. Like Thermasius, we've just seen a new model for Yasubir, and to be honest, the old one is fine. Older, but nonetheless fine. The new one I think is a lot better and makes me think he would be a great FIDE or general skirmisher model, kind of like Constantino's. Both hold up very well. He's a bit meh, to be honest. He's expensive for his fire team option that does bring a damage 14 rifle and light shotgun +1 perf, which could be a nasty surprise in a Harris, but his viral CCW and decent CC is very nice. His infiltration profile is odd. I thought he had Hollow Mask, but it is just Hollow Projector, which means you know it's Yasubir, and you can kind of avoid him or hunt him more menacingly with a HMG since he lacks any time of mimeticism. Seems a bit easy to counter, but in theory you could punish a bear very hard, very quickly with a potential of 25s versus 18s. But I think that one wound means he's liable to get flattened in the tussle of melee. He does get smoked, so it's not awful, but as people who play hack has reminded me, a FIDE could do both jobs better for just a wee bit cheaper. Yasir is a bit pricey, while cheeky, C tier. Ki-san only has the one model and will probably only ever get that one, rest in peace Toha, but I kind of like it as an older model. It has a lot of the tropes associated with hackers, but it does the job. It's a combat artichoke hacker. I really like Ki-san. I seem to have this thing for good specialists and Harris, and Ki-san is really that. It reminds me of Isabel as well, which is another good point. She offers something really unique to Toha in a killer hacking device, sensor and regen with only 1 wound, so she can brain blast hackers, and if she drops she could get back up. But her guns are great too, with either a viral combi rifle, which is rare for Toha, and the K1 combi rifle, which is less rare, but in a Harris, both are nasty within 16 inches. Sensor on 20s is also nice, that's basically 14s to discover most camo, rather than 8s. Overall, a solid A tier character. Hachat has an old model whose pose is just not very good. It's very of its time, but the new one does look a lot better. However, it does get crowded out by the non-heavy infantry Shavasti that all look kind of similar with that kind of cloak and stuff. It's not a complaint per se, it's just kind of something I'm pointing out. Profile wise though, I kind of dig it. It's light sheepskin for 20 points less, and I know you're going to pay the extra 20 points and take her, but like I think a Harris of 2 knocks or Southern combo, and this could be a respectable Harris leader with arm 4 and BTS 3 to 6 that doesn't really get affected by AP. Templates will make this unit cry, but like, I mean, a Gualo heavy rocket launcher, M-Drawn and Hashat could be a very expensive but a very interesting Harris. If nothing else, it makes me a little more interested in Shavasti. Hashat, like Themasius, is oversawn by Dashuk, Ada, and a lot of other characters, but I mean, as medium infantry goes, this is a good A-tier character. Ji Zhuang has one model, and we're finally now into that modern computer-aided design models, and honestly, I don't think it's a strong starting suppose. I don't know what the back thing is. It's not elsewhere in ISS, but like, that's the one thing to remove, and then we'd have a good, strong first showing. The profile is very average if busy. It's BS12, not in panel, so that's okay, but he has a forward observer with 14, which is nice, and he has mine layer for those mad traps, which is nice fire team defense with the purity with celestial guards. And also with number 2, he's not awful to bring, but I'd rather upgrade to Adele or just take another celestial guard to do a similar job. I do like mine layers and cores, so I can't complain too much though. I'll do B tier because that light flame for +1 burst and mine layer, I think it's kind of carrying him. I like Leah Shari's model. I'm not a massive fan of the one leg shooting pose, but hey, it exists. I also feel like the gun covers the face for not a bad model, but not a great one. Profile is like Isabel, a wild card killer hacker that counts as a Gulam, and honestly I could see this being used as a specialist in a Harris. With that shock marksman rifle, she can really be a nice secondary shooter, or she can brain blast people or prevent guided missile strikes with Cyber Mask. The EM mines are also nice. I think this is a great unit to have around. I'm going to say B tier seems about right. She's a neat hacker that does 2 things well. I don't like Rosie's model. It absolutely is a great model, but it's just that bad helmet. I think it's meant to be like a bomb squad helmet or something, but it just makes her look like she's wearing those foam protector helmets from Gladiator. We have female grunts with better helmets. Why did we just not use that? Honestly, it's a great model. It's just the helmet. Profile-wise, this is probably going to do quite well as a wildcard in USAR with dogged forward deployment +4 inches, BS12, arm 3, and a light rocket launcher. This pops up all the time in USAR's list, and I can see why. It's a solid grunt to accompany the Unknown Ranger or Blackjack Harris. I really like this profile for 22 points. A tier, this is a good dire foes. Kind of like Kernau's model, but I don't like the bare arms against the red armor, although I'm convinced this is a paint job or he needs some new arms. The profile is a very solid for a hacker with a killer hacking device and white noise with a BS12 plasma rifle, dodging on 14s and a pitcher. This is all really solid kit for a solo piece. He's also pure core with Unidron, so that's an easy BS15 pitcher lobbing, which is great. Your other option is Bit and Kiss, but they do it much worse, but are better hackers. Kernau is a great effective support hacker and a nice specialist. I'm doing a lot of A tiers, but I mean this one's worth it. Knife has 2 minis, 1 dire foe and 1 limited edition, and I'm going to count it for judging, and both are pretty good. I think I'm more of a fan of the general release, just a proper solid sniper pose. I kind of want it, but I have no use for Knife or a medium infantry at the moment. Profile wise, this is a classic vanilla profile with a burst 3 multi-sniper rifle, MSV1 and min -3. You bring him, pop him out, scalpel something dead and move on. He's 32 points, but he can really defend himself and is a nasty active piece. Like, he won't win you games, but something less standing might struggle to survive. Don't leave him on ARO. It's not good for him, but he's better in everything else. Honestly, I might just sneak him at S tier because he's in a lot of vanilla lists. Arslan has a good model. Like, I can't fault it, but weirdly the thing is, I just do. I think the fault is me. I'm not a fan of him. Profile wise, he's based on a Druze, which is not the best start, but like, it's pretty solid. MSV1 with multi-rifles is great, but BS13 and counts as a Druze, so I mean, he can quite shoot. He's veteran with NWI, which is always nice. He is a profile I feel that could be improved a lot of ways, like Constantino's. For example, he could really use shock immunity, a leader skill as well, because he is the leader of the Druze Barum security, and he could probably use a better gun, but hey, he's solid enough. We'll do B tier for Arslan. He's nice, but he's got a lot of issues all around. Kovac has the one model, but I think it's a great one. It's very much a combat detective, and I dig it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Profile-wise, I've talked about her before in the reinforcement stuff, and I'll talk about her in the Tunguska video I'm going to make. But the tactical awareness, pure core with Tate's wild card, with decent rifles, X-Visor specialist, and sensor, it's all really nice with that chain call as well. And it's a decent profile for not a bad price. B tier is a nice, good model with a great profile. Quinn is a solid model, and I dig the standard pose. It's very tactical, a proper professional. Profile-wise, I kind of like him, but I'm not sure I like his kit. It's really a souped-up Fusilier with breaker pistols with +1 burst, MSV1, a unique specialist, BS13, Whip 13, Arm 2. This is better than by Pandra for sure, but I feel one thing is lacking with Quinn out with reinforcement. His gun is a shock marksman rifle. I feel like Fusiliers and Kamau can make better use of better guns to reach out further, and it's not like he has forward deployment to make better use of his range bands. I feel like he would be better if he didn't have a marksman rifle. I mean, B tier at best, but C tier without reinforcements. I dig the Zabuk's lore and why she's here as a HVT profile. And she's got a profile, so she counts for this video. It's good muscle Morats, like all the new Morats. I think it's really great, scheme aside, and here the McDonald's theme isn't too bad. Profile-wise is probably the worst of all of the Direfo stuff. Like, on its own is not bad. It's 15 points with cheap guns, a focus on non-lethal, which is unique for Morats, but she commits the cardinal sin of being impure in the Morat fire team, and thus a bit useless as she's just overshone by so many elements in that core. Want a cheap piece to load in a Harris? Vanguards are pretty okay. Want close range chaff? Lots of light infantry, medium infantry with templates, and warbands in the other fire team. I just think, like the Kaiotso, she doesn't have enough to offer to want to take her. Honestly, use her as a HVT, work the heck in D tier. I really like Uma's Dire Foe model. It's very pano, a better Quinn model to be honest. That breaker rifle is a long rifle, but it's absolutely peak pano, tactical and nice. The Defiance models both rock the dual SMG or SMG and pistol, which is solid combo, and it works. I prefer the regular edition of the Defiance ones. Kaden seems to be the only good special edition one, but yeah, it's all the models all round. Another one I might get. Profile wise, I'm in two minds, and fortunately there is two profiles, and I kind of dig the breaker rifle one, wild carding pure with Fusiliers, and then the flavour of medium infantry or light infantry of Verd, NC and Svalharema. She brings BTS attacks, which Pano unfortunately lacks, and is a solid secondary shooter with BS 13, min -3, and climbing plus, making her mobile to keep up with orcs or other pieces that you may want to support her with. The SMG +1 burst with camo is the most camo you're getting in Svalharema, as well as some nice dart-esque action. Unfortunately, she's only 1 wound, so we come into the usual issue of a 1 wound camo marker in the midfield that costs 30 points. I like Uma, solidly into the B tier. Oh boy, Gao. The Defiance model is better for a huge HMG wielding dude. Even with the helmet, it's still good. The Dire Foes is doing that angry lean forward with a knife I've seen a few times, and this is just absolutely not the model for it. It's not good. The profile is not great either. He is just 3 layers redundant. He brings breaker but close range, and Yujing has a lot of that. He has a HMG for 45 points, which is neat, but Shang Jesus is 49 points for tactical awareness AP HMG. He has Lieutenant +1 order, but Daiyongs exist in Imperial Army, and in White Banner, I still feel like there's better lieutenant choices. Despite the cool gun, which I very much dig, not much to be excited about here. It's a D tier. Agatha is the newest Dire Foes character, and she's got a decent model that would not make you think she is a skilled paramedic or doctor, but it's a very solid model. Agatha's profile remains stacked with two very nasty profiles, but the base one with the +1 burst medkit in a wildcard and a doctor +3 on 14's base, with no wound incapacitation, CC22, martial arts 2 and an explosive CCW. She's a solid piece all round and completely overshadows the Reverend Healers, so rest in peace Reverend Healers. This is the opposite of Gao and just absolutely overshines other options. A tier. Robin Hook is the second newest Dire Foes character, who is only not the newest as she does appear in the RPG and book fluff before her debut, and I think it's a nice model. I think the remote presence / robot heavy infantry models tend to be a bit of a mixed bag, and I think Hook could be better, but it could also be the paint job. Hook's profile is unique. Good, I'm not sure, but it does do things like a turn 0 repeater in the midfield with, and I checked my notes here, climbing plus, super jump, just in case you weren't bounding around enough, booty, EMC hacker -3 and stealth. Not great ballistic skill, and really hoping good booty roll for something beyond 16 inches, or surviving better within 16 inches. 2 wounds means we can avoid templates, but we do have to worry about hackers like most other heavy infantry. I'm pretty happy with her in military orders, but in Bakunin she's just not really used due to her initiate deployable repeaters, and in military orders she does compete with both the Peacemaker and Dart, but does both jobs for a lot less. So it's kind of, do you want 2 specialists or 1 jack of all trade? I like her, but I mean, C tier. Adele is just a medium infantry profile here. He only has the 1 model, and it's a good white banner model. I think his heavy infantry one is a bit better, but this is solid using. There are lots going on here, and I think he's one of the sleeper hits of monofilament users. It's just a shame he doesn't have anything else, but he also is pretty optimized with Phys 11 and martial arts 2. He's also a specialist with sensor, no wound incapacitation, number 2, veteran or chain of command with breaker. I feel like this is a prime secondary shooter here. Does it get play? I have no ideas. I don't play Yujing, but he seems only slightly bloated in the same way that Kovac is. B tier. Gunar proves that Panel can have Space Knights and Vikings while backing the Space Samurai revolts. Anyway, I like the model, it's great. It's not overly Space Viking, but it's just enough for some character Viking who's good at melee, but don't expect all medium infantry to be good at melee. Profile-wise, Gunnar is another medium infantry profile that gets grief, and I mean, I can see why, but I don't think it's justified. Sure, Shock Immunity would be great, but I mean, he's still a Galwegian crossed with like a Pano medium infantry, and that's kind of good in my books. He's solid in melee with a Trench Hammer, Berserk, +1 burst, martial arts, and natural born warrior, which means he can reasonably hunt melee users, but realistically bully expensive models in the midfield. And he also gets tactical awareness to throw a Harris or duo up the board and for him to bully something down, blocking its path. Like many things in Pano, Smoke would raise this up a tier, but B tier. I don't like Casanova's model. I get what they're going for and they do it well, but I don't think Infinity is James Bond. I think Infinity is Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, so some nerd with a saber and a suit, while sound Shadowrun, I feel very years hard into Solo Spy, and I feel like I want Daniel Craig more than Roger Muir. Again, good model, but just not for me. Profile-wise, he also does nothing to excite me. SMG on a 33-point model in the midfield with, to be fair, no wound incapacitation, but again, no shock immunity. With min -6, it's not a great unit. He does have a specialist operative, so he could do some stuff in the midfield, but I mean, I feel like a good Galwegian could end him rightly. I don't know, maybe I'm being critical of Casanova, but D tier. Shargos is really interesting model. I think gets worse the more you think about it. So my major complaint is this. See that big rock crusher on his arm that's really nasty looking? It's not his DACCW, which is like, why give him a sword? He doesn't need it. He has a cool drill arm. Anyway, the Dire Foes model is good, but the ITS model kind of spoils it. Profile-wise, it isn't great for him either. Highlights is that he's great in melee with damage 15 DACCW or D-Charge Fu. He's also min -6 with Spec Ops and number 2. He is, however, 1 wound, 1 armor, 6 BTS, no secondary wounds, and that's all for 37 points, which is not great to say the least. He might be one of the more expensive 1 wound models, and that's not in his favour. Like the regular cutthroats, he's D tier. Kaden, I kind of like Kaden's model, sort of. The Direfall model has a real Mo Sislak, I have two knives and I couldn't be happier, but he's good, not great, but definitely good. Now his Defiance models are both 10 out of 10s, no further questions, with that leaping pose with either a claymore or a stonking great nice. That is a fantastic limited edition model, and it's an okay regular one. Stats-wise, Kaden is a Wolver, one of two, I believe, true 2-wound Direfoes characters. He's one of the best melee users in Ariadna with an AP plus T2 CCW with Berserk plus 3, Martial Arts 2, and Natural Born Warrior, which can be a demon on the charge. 1.63 wounds against an Armor 2 after AP, which is just lovely. Climbing Plus makes him mobile but slow, and a T2 rifle, grenades and heavy pistol makes him very nasty at close ranges. I do have gripes. One, not a specialist, and he could really use with being one. He's a breacher, which I know isn't for pushing buttons, but it would be nice. However, I would also take smoke or 6-2, but as is, he is 2 wounds in a t-shirt, so I can't really complain. I really think there is some improvements to Kaden that could be made, but he's just a brute, and I don't think I can expect much more than that. B tier, because I think he's one of the better Direfoes characters. Jazz is a pretty standard hacker model, to be honest, in both versions. I think the best version might be the hacker visor version of the Direfoes one. Billy, of course, is looking good in all the versions he has. Profile-wise, what can I say? Jazz is one of the better profiles in the game. A truly, terribly efficient hacker who has a pitcher that can wildcard, has her own little flash pulse repeater to follow around, and has the single most efficient hacking setup in the game with literally all programs except for the ones in the Evo Hacker and Zero Pain, which is really nice. Oh, and she's like 25 points in her most expensive form. However, she can only hack. Like, if you get a Galwegian within 16 inches, she's probably dead. Like, not even 8 inches. At 16 inches, I reckon I could start popping some pistol shots off to kill her before I get into melee. I'm nitpicking here, but Jazz is ridiculously solid and is in most vanilla and corregidor lists for good reason. Billy's profile also exists, he's fine. For her impact on the meta and being the Direfoes character besides Jan Star to get grief across the board, this is an S tier. Trish has not got any amazing models, but I mean, I like them. They are solidly nice poses. She's got that pistol out when her rifle is sitting literally right there, but solid nonetheless. Also, her Yodbot is neat. Trish's profile is neat. A dogged engineer in LF is nice if a little overshone, and she does have that breaker rifle. But I mean, I feel like Parvati, she's just a bit meh. Like in Pano using or Ariadna, I would greatly appreciate Trish, but in LF, she's not standing out. Kind of like a hacker character in Nomads that's just a hacking device in Dogged. Sure, it would be nice, but I mean, people will still do better options for more if they see the cost as worth it. Her kit is nice, but it's not enough to save her. We're talking C tier. If you need to pick up a tag, Parvati will do it better. Rouhani's model in Defiance is going hard, and I really appreciate that in a model. It's commitment. I respect that effort. Direfoes Rouhani is okay. He's looking a bit gormless, like he's about to shrug or ask for directions. Both the SMG and medkit wasn't needed. One or the other, preferably doing something like raising it to shoot or raising the medkit to heal someone. It's solid enough, and his Direfoe Nazma is dope. Rouhani's profile is in a worse state than Trish though. Trish has a use as a cheaper, cheeky engineer. Rouhani is a decent doctor in a faction of amazing doctors. He has whip 18 to doctor people, but hacked light infantry are doing it on 17s. Hakims are also whip 15 with that +3 doctor, but also +1 buff medkits, which Rouhani can do, but they do it much easier and in the midfield. And now he does have NWI, but it's BS11 and an SMG, so I mean he can tank a stray shot. He's not going to enjoy it, and he may save some Jan or Alpha Seed. I'm just not enamoured with this. He really could use literally any upgrade beyond the basic hack doctoring, like maybe infiltration or parachutist as a named Hakim. D tier as a worse Trish. Like literal Golams do his job almost as good for cheaper. And that was my list of all the Direfoes characters. Do you agree with what I've done? Do you disagree with what I've done? Did you despair at my choices? But let me know in the comments below, and don't worry, next time you'll see some more useful content. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next time.